Hey everyone, welcome to the Hornet King channel, and in this video I'll be removing a massive German yellow jacket colony that decided to make its nest in a client's basement ceiling and bring it home and feed it to my animals, my 2 emus, my Rhea, and my chickens. Here's the video, guys. Check it out. Colony is very active going in and out of this spot. So this species is the German yellow jacket, Vespula germanica anthic, and I had to remove this nest from behind this client's basement ceiling floor joist. Say that 3 times fast. So this client had this nest. It was up behind this flooring joist, and I had to let him know, like, hey, listen, we got to cut into this flooring joist if we're going to get it out, and the best way would be from the inside of the basement. And since this is just above the foundation block wall, it wasn't going to be compromising the flooring to do this. And the client was like, whatever you have to do to get it out. I want it out. I don't want it just sprayed or dusted or anything. So I cut a small hole into the flooring joist and was able to extract the nest out through it. So vacuuming up as many of the adults as I see in the very beginning here, but it was so percussive because this is just a small little utility closet. And since it being a concrete wall, the percussive sound of the vacuum was just bouncing off of that wall. It was just becoming just way too much for me in my ears. So I vacuumed for a little while here and just tried to pull the nest down, but I did eventually just turn the vacuum off and just pretty much just pull everything out by handfuls. Since this is German yellow jackets, they're one of the least aggressive yellow jacket species that I deal with here in Pennsylvania. So I'm able to get away with not using so much of the vacuum when it comes to this species. If this was southern yellow jackets, Vespula squamosa, or eastern yellow jackets, Vespula maculifrons, or even Vespula vidua, I really could not get away with having the vacuum off and just pulling stuff out by handfuls. I'd have to vacuum up as many as I could because they would just be swarming me and attacking me. You'll notice that not a lot are coming out to swarm me and attack me while I'm doing this process. Unless I start like really bumping the nest, then they start getting a little bit agitated and they fly around, but they're not really like coming out and latching all over my veil or latching all over my suit. They're pretty much just sticking to my gloves. And I get a little bit comfortable with that, but it's funny, like this is the most intense part of my process when it comes to removing yellow jacket colonies from inside people's homes or whatever, but it's reaching into these spaces and pulling nest out. That is probably one of the creepiest things because most of the times I can't see where my hand is going. So I'm reaching in like around corners. Like you'll see me reaching into this flooring joist space and I can't see where my hand's going. So I'm going by feel, which I have a leather glove on, so I can't feel all that much. But I'm reaching and going by feel, and I can feel the buzzing of all the yellow jackets on my glove and I pull it out and they're just caked all over it. That is one of the most unnerving aspects to my removal process, is I'm pulling this stuff out by hand. And I mean, there's thousands of them. They could just sting me over and over and over again. Well, you'll see my glove, that the leather of it's a little bit wet from my sweat because it was hot. I mean, it was like 100 degrees this day. Even though it's down in the basement, I had already been outside a bunch of times, got all sweaty. The gloves got sweaty. And anytime that leather gets wet, it gets soft. And it's soft enough for them to sting through it. So that becomes a little bit unnerving. I knew that I was all sweaty, and I knew that there was going to be a potential for a yellow jacket to sting through that glove. And it's not a matter of how thick the glove is or wearing multiple layers, which is unrealistic. It's just the way it is when it comes to, you know, doing this type of removal process, is that you're going to have the potentiality of being stung through the glove. If you get sweaty, or in the case of doing a ground nest, if I'm touching a bunch of wet grass and then the gloves get wet. So it's a part of the process, and you just kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. Thank God for German yellow jackets. These guys are just so chill. And a couple have been trying to sting me. Of course, I'll say that now I'll get stung. Vacuum's just like percussive in this space. As you can see, there's a lot of adult wasps, so a lot of metamorphosis has been done in this colony. And when I shine the camera inside this space, and you can see all of these thousands and thousands of yellow jackets in here, this colony was a very, very successful colony. So this queen has been busy. There's only one founding queen in a colony like this. So all of the yellow jackets that you see here, aside from the queen and aside from males, all the workers, all the females, all the new queens have been laid solely by the original founding queen. So to get this a little bit more convoluted, by the end of the season, new males will emerge, and the males are laid by the workers. So the workers are sterile. They cannot mate, so they can't mate with a male and then become a queen and start laying fertile females. They can't do that. So the infertile females, or the workers, the sterile females, as it were, they can only lay unfertilized eggs, which become male. And the fertilized eggs become females, whether that becomes a worker, a sterile female, or if it becomes a new queen. So when you look into a nest like this and you see a ton of just workers so far, it's not progressed enough to have had any new males hatched out yet. And that's kind of where we're at here. I didn't notice too many males. I'm kind of looking at the video while I'm doing this voiceover, and I don't see a ton of males right now. Pretty much everything I'm seeing are workers. So it was far enough in the season that they had obviously had thousands of workers in it, but not far enough in the season that a lot of males have hatched out yet. So maybe a little bit sooner, a little bit later here, we'll see some males in here. But at this point, I don't see a lot of males. So pretty much what happens is at the end of the season, the new males and the new queens hatch out from these nests, and they will go off and fly off to start a new colony for next year. So the males and the queens will fly out together. They'll do a little mating ritual. The males will die, and the original workers die, and the original queen dies. But then those newly fertile females, those newly fertilized females will fly off, and they'll hibernate for the winter time, and then next spring they'll reemerge, and they'll start a new colony next year. But you can see here, I just kind of disturbed this nest a little bit, and they're just starting to go into like a fury in there. But again, not as bad as like southern yellow jackets or eastern yellow jackets. I mean, this is very mild in comparison, but they were still becoming kind of alerted to the vibration of the nest. And they pretty much just cake around the outside. Like, again, they're not like flying out at me to attack me. This is why I call them the more docile species that I deal with. If this was any other species, they would be all over me, and they'd be coming out of this hole with a fury towards the light and everything else. But they're not. They're kind of just staying chill, and they're staying inside the nest. Now, another aspect of that, too, is that when a worker hatches from the nest, that right after they hatch, they have about 2 days where they can't fly or sting. So that could also be what we're seeing here. It's just a lot of newly hatched adults that aren't ready to attack yet. So that could also be why that they're a little bit more docile. But even the ones that I'm pulling the nest off, like they come over flying out. You can see the ones that are airborne. They're flying out, and they're kind of just like floating around. They're not like swarming and like really attacking. But that doesn't matter because I still get stung. So But again, this is the creepiest part. Reaching inside of here, just feeling around. I know there's thousands of yellow jackets on that. Look at my glove. I know that there's thousands of yellow jackets on that nest. And I still got to reach my hand in there and pull it out. So when I stick the vacuum in here, I'm not trying to vacuum up the nest. I'm actually trying to be as delicate as I can around the comb things to not vacuum it up. Because if I wanted to, and I've done this on other removals when I really couldn't get my hands into the nest to pull it out, I've taken the vacuum nozzle and I just shove it into the comb, and it just sucks it up, and it just makes like this thumping noise, and I just know I'm sucking up tons and tons of nest. But that's when I usually don't try to do that. So when people watch these videos who are new, and they're like, oh, you got such a weak vacuum because it's not getting any of the comb or the envelope. It's like, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm holding the vacuum nozzle in a very specific way so it doesn't suck up on the comb. And sometimes you'll see that, like I'll vacuum and the comb will get suctioned to the end of the vacuum. And that's actually not ideal because, again, the comb is getting sucked up to the vacuum, then yellow jackets aren't going down into the vacuum. So I'm more concerned about vacuuming up the yellow jackets than I am the actual nest. So walking all of this stuff down, I'm putting it down here outside of the original utility closet where the nest is. And that's mainly because there's such a tight quarters in there. I didn't want to have a bag where I'm holding a bag because, I mean, I had the vacuum sitting on top of the expansion tank for the well system. And then the ladder sitting, there was a short ladder. And I had a couple of the little pieces of nest sitting there on that ladder top. But I didn't have enough room to have like the entire bag with the nest in there and not have to worry about not bumping it off and everything else. So I literally just kept taking handfuls of the nest and walking it down the ladder and putting it down in the other utility room. And that way it was out of my way. And then once I was done, I could vacuum up any of the adults and workers and stuff off that comb. But you see any ones that are making it into the space, they're trapped in this small little room that I'm in. and they're going right to the window because that's where the daylight is. So as long as I keep doing that and just letting them fly up to the window, I just let them do that until at the end of the removal. Then I'll just go out with the vacuum and vacuum them up off the window. So trying to figure out how much more I have to do here, and looking down inside this space, I mean, obviously it was a well-protected space for them, and they were able to kind of fill up this entire cavity with nest and comb and envelope. So again, I have to reach my hand like deep down inside of there, and there's really no way for me to get to that without like using like a pry bar or something. But I left my pry bar up in the car, and this was a larger house, so I didn't feel like climbing all the way back up there. So, and I got stung. So oftentimes when I'm reaching inside of there with just my hand, there's always more of a potential of getting stung. So if I use the pry bar and I can like scrape stuff out, then I'm not touching the nest directly with my hand, and I don't get stung as often. But so people ask oftentimes, like, hey, how often do you get stung doing these removals? I get stung about maybe once, like every like 2 weeks maybe, and it's not super often. So I'm not like concerned about that really when I go into it. I just go into the removal process thinking I may get stung today, and I'm not going to be surprised if I do. But if I don't get stung, then it's just a happy little situation. Like, hey, I didn't get stung today. So that's another reason why I'm not too concerned about it. I really don't think about getting stung for the most part. But if I do get stung, I just keep on doing what I have to do, and just pay attention to my breathing and everything, because I'm not allergic. I mean, nobody's really allergic, but they're sensitive to the presence of the venom. So I'm not really sensitive to it, but that doesn't mean that I can't become sensitive. So I just pay attention to how I'm breathing and how I feel and everything for about 15-20 minutes after getting stung. And most of the time, knock on wood, I haven't had any kind of anaphylactic response to the presence of venom in my system, so thank God. So inside of this space, I got most of the comb up, so I just have to go back over the vacuum and just vacuum up the rest of the workers that are inside that space and just clear out the inside of this cavity. I do spray in here once I'm done because I couldn't get every little nook and cranny just because of how much space I had to work with that little hole to reach my arm in with the vacuum. So I just sprayed the rest of them with Wasp and Hornet spray and a little bit of spider and scorpion spray, and sealed it back up, and then they'll die in there, and the client won't have a problem anymore. But even so, even after all that vacuuming, I was here for about maybe an hour and 10 minutes. I would have to guess there was about 10,000 yellow jackets in this colony. I mean, it was just packed with tons of workers, tons of larvae, tons of pupating adults, and that's how I tally up my guesstimates as to how many are inside of a colony, not just the workers themselves. I calculate that by also the pupa and the larvae and the workers and the new queens. They'll figure it out soon, won't they, birdies? Alright, this is a massive nest that I did yesterday. Yip, 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 yip. Big dope birdie. Come on. Come, keep coming. Come on. Hey, good birdies. You need to come out of there. You're blocking everybody up from getting in. Come on. Come on. Time to come out. Come on. Just farted on me. Nice. Nice. Here. Eat some nest. Sit down there and eat some nest.
You choose that over this. Oh my god.
Beep. Beep.
Hey, little biddies. Come on. Oh, Rhea the Rhea. Get your energy up, so the emus are going to chase you all day.